wisdom.
Hi everybody, so in today's little tutorial I'm going to show a little bit of the changes that you may have experienced if you've recently been migrated or have chosen to migrate from Microsoft Internet Explorer to the new Microsoft Edge that was just released in January of 2020. So if you want to know the background in terms of what has happened, the technical details, and some of the history of the browser wars, you can check out my other video, History of the Browser Wars. But for now, I'm just going to highlight some of the differences so that if you're moving to Microsoft Edge, you can get a little used to it. You can see on the desktop here three icons. Internet Explorer 11, which might be a browser you've been using for a while. Google Chrome, which is probably one of the most popular browsers out there today. And Microsoft Edge. And you can almost imagine that if you look at this icon and you kind of married it with this icon, you would kind of get this sort of swirly blue icon. And that's essentially what Microsoft did. Microsoft has moved away in the latest version of Edge from their own way of rendering web pages and is now using the same engine that Google Chrome uses, Chromium. And that's why sometimes this is now referred to as Microsoft Chromium Edge, because it's using that same background. Again, for the details of how that all works, you can look at the other video. Suffice it to say that when you go to web pages now in Microsoft Edge, you're actually going to see the web page pretty much exactly the same as you would see it in Google Chrome, which is much easier for developers because they don't have to keep track of all the different little changes between one browser and another. So it was a good move for Microsoft to make, in my opinion, and it keeps things a lot easier and less of a pain in the butt for us developers. So let's open up Internet Explorer. And Internet Explorer in the default page goes to your MSN page. You have your little home icon, your little favorites icon. You can let them know what they think. I'm not sure how that works, but there's a little icon there. Of course, there's no menu bar in Internet Explorer as a version of 11, but I'm a big fan of menu bars, so I would often right-click on here and turn that back on so that I can see the menu bar and then go to my favorites and things like that. So that's one of the big changes with the new browser, the Chromium Edge browser, is that you don't have that ability to go to a menu bar. It's taking more of the form of what you'll see in a lot of mobile phone applications. And if we just switch and we open up Chromium Edge, right away you'll see there's still no menu bar. There's no way to right-click and pick a menu bar. The menu bar is actually these little three dots over on the side. And when you click on those, you'll see your different options. So again, there's your favorites. There's your ability to go to new tabs. This is the in private window, which again, using the Chromium Edge browser is what you would call incognito mode. So it's not tracking any user information about you. Again, histories, you can see your downloads. So your menu bar is now on the side, and that's where you would see most of your common menus and settings. Now, let's say you wanted to know the version of Microsoft Edge you're using. Well, you could go into settings. And then when you're into settings, you'll see About Microsoft Edge. You can click on that, and you can see right now I'm using version 85.0.5641. So that's how you would get the version. So if you can't see the home icon showing up on your Edge screen, what you're going to do again is you're going to go down into settings, and you're going to look under Appearance, and there's going to be a little option here, Show the Home button. So when I flick that switch from off to on, you'll see a little home icon appears up in the left-hand corner here, and then that will allow you to go to whatever you set as your home page, or whatever your administrators may have set as your home page if you're working for a company. But that's how you get your little home icon back. Another thing you're going to want to do if you're a big user of Internet Explorer is import those Internet Explorer favorites. So you can do that by going to your favorites button and hitting import. This is going to take you through a little wizard that's going to ask you where do you want to get your favorites from. So I'm going to pick, for example, Microsoft Internet Explorer. Now you notice there's this Microsoft Edge legacy. So prior to January of 2020, Microsoft released Microsoft Edge that came with Windows 10, but it wasn't the Chromium Edge that you're probably seeing today if you've gotten the latest update since the 2020 update. So that will allow you to take your favorites from the older Microsoft Edge into the newer Microsoft Edge. In this case, we're going to pick Internet Explorer. And I'm going to choose to bring over my favorites and my saved passwords and my search engines. I'll remove my browsing history. Don't really need that to brought over. I'll bring over my cookies, I guess, my home page, and my settings and my open pad. So that's what I'll bring over. So then I'm going to choose import. And it's going to say we brought your data over. And now when I look under my favorites button, I should see other favorites. That's where it put them. And then it put those sites in there. Now you might notice that here I don't see a favorites bar. But if I click on a new tab that I've yet to have opened, there's that favorites bar that's now imported those settings. If I actually went to, say, Google, and it's not an open tab, I don't see the favorites bar. Again, that's a settings in Microsoft Edge. You could go, if you look under your favorites, you'll see an option here, show favorites bar, and when you hold your mouse over that, you'll see always, never, and only on new tab. So you can pick always if you like to use your favorites bar, and you want that to show up there. Now the favorites bar basically works the same way. If there's something that you want on your favorites bar, you can hit the ability to add to favorites, or you can just take this little icon and drop it down here, and then it becomes part of your favorites bar to make it easy to access. Of course, I don't really need it there since I already have Google, so we'll just delete that again. If you're on a site, and we will pick on, say, yahoo.ca, and it is not currently in your favorites, you will see this little star icon, and it is empty. If you click on that, it will ask you, oh, do you want to add that to a favorite? And then you can pick your favorites bar or your other favorites, and then it will add it for you. And now it has this star letting you know this is a site from your favorites. So just to verify the import process, let's go over to Internet Explorer, and I'll show you that these were my favorites: LinkedIn, Google, Trailhead, TripAdvisor. In here, I had the SharePoint site, Be Proud of Your Inner Geek, then my Geek Wisdom site, and the geocaching site. So they would match with what you're seeing now in terms of my favorites. Again, the things on my favorites bar: Google, LinkedIn, Her, Trailhead, TripAdvisor, and my other favorites, including that SharePoint site, the Geek Wisdom site, geocaching site, and of course the Yahoo that I just added. So it imported those settings over. Now, the next thing I would like to show you is that there's some sites that, if you've still been using Internet Explorer, will slowly stop accepting Internet Explorer, and you may have noticed this already. So if you were to, for example, go to YouTube to try to watch a video, YouTube is now recognizing, and what happened there was quite fast, so I'm going to go back and look at that. The YouTube page in Internet Explorer now said this page doesn't work with Internet Explorer because they recognize that YouTube doesn't work with Internet Explorer anymore. So it actually then opened up in Edge automatically for me. Now, not all pages will do that. I'll give you an example, for example, of the Salesforce Trailhead page right now, which will open up, but will give you a message saying that this browser is not supported. You'll see that right there. We do not support this browser. So you can't actually go to it. However, it does work perfectly fine in the new Edge. And when you click on it, you can go in and you can log in and you can go ahead and do your learning. So some sites, if you try to open them in Internet Explorer, depending on how the site is configured, will say, hey, we don't support this anymore, and it will redirect you to Edge. Sometimes you'll just get a message telling you that you need to open this site up in Edge. One thing to understand about Chromium Edge is that it operates in two different modes. The general standard mode you see is rendering using the Google Chromium engine, but there's also a special mode called Internet Explorer mode that can be turned on as needed for certain old legacy sites that may not be working properly on modern browsers. So this is basically controlled by a list that's read by your computer. So when you go to a certain site, what happens is if it opens up in Internet Explorer mode, you'll see here in the top left-hand corner a little E icon that looks like the original Internet Explorer E icon. When you see that, what's actually happening is the Chromium browser is displaying that page using Internet Explorer, as the rendering ability, showing it to you in that old mode. So this allows these older websites to work inside Chromium Edge. And when you go to a new, more modern website, it won't have that little E icon showing that it's using the Chromium Edge. So it's switching between different engines as needed to give you one seamless experience regardless of which website you're going to help make sure everything works and to keep you from having to jump from one browser to another depending on the website you want to visit. So if you're having problems with the website, it could be that it needs to be in that little edge mode, needs to be turned on so that that website would work in the old way that it was originally designed to work for backwards compatibility with older websites. So that's what that little E icon is, and that's what it means when you see it, that you're operating in this older Internet Explorer mode. So that's been an overview of some of the differences in Edge. The icons look a little bit different. The home page may not show up right away. You'll want to import your favorites from Internet Explorer if that hasn't already been done for you. And then you can move on knowing that the pages that you show will all be supported. They will all show up, and they're all using the same rendering engine, the same technical backend that Google Chrome uses, which again makes it a lot easier for us developers in creating sites because we don't have to target multiple different types of browsers. Again, if you're interested in why there's multiple different types of browsers and why this is a headache for programmers, you can check out my other video on the browser war history. Thanks. Have a great day.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this article are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of my employer. Examples of analysts and code used within this presentation are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real-world products as they should be considered as based on limit and possibly dated open source information. Assumptions made within this presentation are not reflective of the position of any private or government entity to which the author is presently employed.